Welcome to the virtual college exploration for all North and South Carolina students. Sponsored by the Carolinas Association of Collegiate Registrars and Admissions Officers and StriveScam. Thank you for joining us. A few housekeeping announcements before we get started. You can use the Q&A button on your screen to type your questions to our presenters at any time. Your camera and microphone are off, so the panelists cannot see or hear you. This is just one of many different sessions happening, so be sure to check out the full schedule at CACRAO.org. That's CACRAO.org. This presentation is being recorded and will be available within about a week at the same website, CACRAO.org. I'd now like to turn it over to our presenter.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Annalee Henley. I am a senior admissions counselor at High Point University, and we're a small private liberal arts university located in the Triad of North Carolina. Today, we are going to be talking about sticker price versus the actual cost. And we will have a chat box, so feel free to ask any questions and we will wait till the end and answer them together. If we don't get to your question, we do get a transcript of all of the questions coming in, so we can reach out to you individually to answer your questions. I'm going to let my other panelists introduce themselves right now.
Ladies first.
Good evening. My name is Denise Bradbury. I am with St. Andrews University, and I'm a regional representative out of Winston-Salem.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Glenn Engelberg. I am the Director of Undergraduate Admissions over at William Peace University. We are a small private liberal arts school right in the heart of Raleigh, North Carolina.
Awesome. So today's agenda, we are going to be speaking about affordability, the differences between public versus private when it comes to funding your education, a little bit about scholarships, financial aid, and important terminology you will hear throughout this process. And then, of course, at the end, we will handle the Q&A.
All right. Well, thank you so much there, Annalee. So first off, and thank you, everyone, for joining us here this evening. So the first item we want to discuss, of course, is how to make private colleges affordable. And there are even more ways than are listed here, and a couple of these items, specifically with financial aid and scholarships, we're going to go into more depth a little later in this presentation here. But generally speaking, I can tell you specifically at my university, William Peace, or at Annalee's, or at Denise's, that we probably can all say that we have a lot of work study opportunities and FWS, or our federal worker students, that will go ahead and help with a lot of different opportunities in areas like in our Welcome Center with tutoring. There's a lot of different opportunities there. So there's a lot of ways you can use that to help subsidize funding. In addition, there is grants that are, some are need-based, some are non-need-based. And of course, there's a lot of financial aid options, which we'll get into in a little bit, and a plethora of different scholarships and grants too, especially at the undergraduate level. If we can go to the next slide here, we'll go ahead and talk a little bit about net price versus the ticket or actual sticker price for colleges. So it's almost like when you are looking at any item, in particular, you want to know what you're actually going to pay for it, right? So we thought we'd go ahead and break down a couple items here just to kind of clear the air and help everyone, realize what you're actually paying, not just what is actually listed. So a couple points of clarification. One is that there are two prices for every college degree. So when you go ahead and look at it, typically it'll be the sticker or ticket price. There's also going to be, of course, the net price, which we'll go over in a second here. And the biggest difference is that the sticker ticket price is the number that most schools will list in the brochures, or when you look on U.S. News or reports, or through the different website, that'll typically be the main one there. But the one that specifically you want to go ahead and do to compare apples to apples or oranges to oranges, so to speak, will be the net price. And so that will essentially be that will essentially go ahead and be the sticker or ticket price minus all the different scholarships, grants, financial aid, FWS, minus everything else, what you're actually going to be going ahead and paying with that. And one interesting trend too, I thought would be worth sharing here as well, is that at private nonprofit four-year universities, the growth of tuition has actually outpaced the growth of out-of-pocket costs by almost 4 times the amount, about 31% to 8%. So, of course, it's no secret that, for a variety of reasons, in higher education, there are, like anything else, inflation, and increasing costs with it. But the good news here is that, at least with some private nonprofit core universities, the growth of tuition is outpacing the growth of what you're actually going to go ahead and pay. That's nice. So just something like anything else to keep in mind for kind of the total big picture. And I think that's something that you're going to go ahead and see today when Annalee and Denise also go ahead and discuss their portions too, is really going ahead and comparing the big picture to help you feel comfortable and confident making a decision. With the next slide that we'll go ahead and show here will be, of course, as I use that, comparing apples to apples. For all the employees I work with and colleagues, they know I'm a man of many phrases, and that's one of them that we have. So, well, one of the biggest things though too, whether you're a parent or if you're a student and you're speaking with a representative or admissions counselor at a college, or just even on a chat box, or speaking even with, let's say, someone who's a returning student from that college that's coming back to your high school, there's a few questions here we thought would be really important to ask. One, and the first one listed is, how can I estimate my scholarships or financial aid? And especially the private university, can we estimate that with the NPC, or net price calculator? One of the neat things is that a lot of the colleges, I know ours included, and many others, will have a lot of different resources on their website to go ahead and help you estimate what you'll be paying to give you a better idea with different scholarships or other financial aid items. So you can go ahead and have more of an accurate guesstimate, so to speak, with that. So definitely something you want to go ahead and ask your admissions counselor, or seeing the FAQ section of websites to really make sure that you kind of dig into that to get to what's going to be the most accurate figure. What's included in the cost, is a huge one too as well. And a lot of times it may be the meal plan. Some, like in our tuition, for example, at William Peace University, we have books included. Without some universities do, some don't. So you want to make sure when you're actually looking at it, what is everything that kind of comes in that package? To make sure that, if you're like me and you're maybe a little bit of a type A personality, just ask my wife, she'll definitely tell you that, we'll go ahead and make different charts, or kind of comparing, a pros and cons list. The more you can have the items more similar, just like anything else, the easier it will be. And it's no different here with something like this. I know that a huge one, of course, will be, what will my family's out-of-pocket expenses be? Specifically when we talk about scholarships and financial aid here in a little bit. That will go ahead and help shed some light on it. But of course, that's going to be, at the end of the day, what are we going to actually end up paying versus what the actual listed, tuition and or prices for this university. And of course, what internal or external scholarships there are. I could probably talk about this for hours, but I'll go ahead and let my co-panelists discuss this in a little bit. But there's many different areas there too, and they're very different with that as well. You can go ahead and probably see a couple other items here with average, tuition information and some other statistics too. But also I thought something that was important as in regards to retention rate. And these are, just a couple statistics right here with this. But I think a couple things to note is that traditionally, at private universities, there's usually a pretty strong, retention rate. So a lot of times that will outpace a little bit of some public universities. Now, of course, that can depend on first year versus 4-year. There's lots of different elements or data. This is just one of them that we gathered here, as you can see. But also, I thought something important that's really key is that it's almost actually at 90% now in terms of the first-time full-time freshmen who receive an institutional grant or scholarship. And I can tell you from our university in particular, as an example, almost half of our students are first generation. Or if they're first generation college students in their family. And I think sometimes there's a misconception that they're going to have to pay everything out of pocket, or there's not a lot of scholarships available. But as you can see from the first bullet point too, now a lot of times the average tuition discount rate will be more than half. A lot of times in terms of what you actually do end up paying will be less than half of what the actual price is. And then finally here with the next slide that I'll quickly go over before I hand to one of my co-panelists is the value of a private college as well. Now, I want to preface this by saying that it's going to be what's best for you. Obviously, you and your parents, family, know yourself obviously the best. But when you go ahead and looking at different universities, you want to see what is the value of going ahead and have this school maybe compared to some other options as well. There's some students who thrive on smaller classes, want to be a big fish in a small sea versus a small fish in a large sea. There's some that, like in our example, at our university, we do a lot of immersive experiential learning, a lot of internship kind of components that way. Some people find really helpful and learn better that way. Some don't, so go ahead and see, think what's best for you. And also, generally speaking, a lot of the private four-year colleges and some of the smaller liberal arts colleges, like ours too in particular, and my co-panelists have a lot of unique majors. I just listed a couple there for ours, but some that are not always available at other colleges that is helpful to look at too. One thing I will say as well is that when you are looking at different colleges, to go ahead and see the value of it too, if it is, let's say, a smaller university, but maybe doesn't have some of the classes or majors that are there too, ask what kind of partnerships that they have with other schools. Like, for example, we have cooperating Raleigh colleges where you can actually take classes at about 4 or 5 other large, large and private universities, and they go ahead and directly transfer to our programs that we have here too. So ask your admissions counselor or the person that you're speaking with at school what resources are available there too, because it's not just always in the boxes necessarily at school. A lot of times there's a lot of partnerships and cooperative agreements they have to help. Lastly, I thought this was an interesting resource here where they did several studies, and the average private college graduate, they said you can expect to see an economic gain of $838,000 over the, as you see, over the long-term span versus some public college graduates, which is about $765,000. So it's about that return on that investment too, and that has many ways. So not just financial, but it's also about your experience and what that means to you. So the last thing I'll say is that along those lines too, when you're looking at different options and seeing that is, speak to the ambassadors of that school. If you have anyone that is a friend, or maybe like I was a senior last year that's going there now, see what it's like for them, the things that are important to you. And if you go ahead and see yourself there, and I know ultimately speaking with your family, friends, and everyone else, I'm sure you'll make the best decision for yourself. And of course, we would, any of myself or our other two panelists, I'm sure would love to see it here, but most importantly, you need to go ahead and decide what's best for you. And here's just a couple ways to go ahead and compare and find that out.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about these scholarships, because it is the one way that you can impact the cost of your college. So we're going to talk a little bit about what kind of scholarships are out there, and then I'll give you a whole bunch of resources. So the first one is the merit-based scholarship. This is the one that we're all familiar with, but a lot of people think that it just is academics. So your super academic students and your sports students, okay? But merit-based scholarships actually apply to anything that you excel at. So if you have a great set of pipes and you're a wonderful singer, there's probably a scholarship out there for you. If you've done a lot of community service, there's probably a scholarship out there for you. So there are merit-based scholarships out there for a whole lot more than just academics and sports. So keep looking. Financial need. My one piece of advice for you on this is don't decide. Don't you decide whether or not you need financial assistance to go to college, because it's based on someone else's perception of what that need is. So don't decide, just apply. That's the rule on that one. School specific. There are those out there who say that the college you choose to attend will be your number one source of funding for your college education. So be sure that you're talking to everyone that you meet in the college about scholarships there, and that leads to the program specific scholarships. Those are scholarships if you want to be a nurse and you get a chance to meet nursing professionals. My experience with our nursing program at St. Andrews is that they are involved in every nursing organization there is out there. And most of those provide scholarships for students who want to pursue that degree program. So be sure that when you're on a college campus, you're not just talking to your admissions counselor or your financial aid office about scholarships, but ask everyone you run into about what scholarships can help you achieve your goals. So program-specific scholarships are out there for every career. You just need to be talking and looking into those organizations that support those career choices. Types of people, know who you are, know your background, know your heritage, know what you're good at, and everything you can know about yourself. Talk to your parents, talk to your grandparents, because employers of those people may be able to offer you some assistance. So be sure you know who you are when you're out applying for scholarships. And then there's characteristics, and I'm going to tie that in with some of the random stuff, but because I think they fit together. But, you know, I wear glasses and I'm also left-handed. But there are scholarships out there for all of those types of situations. The random stuff, they are insane. Are you a coffee lover? Do you like ice cream? Are you a chocolate lover? There's scholarships out there for every one of them. As a matter of fact, the ice cream scholarship this year is asking you to write an essay on what flavor you would be and why. How fun would that be? What flavor of ice cream would you be? So these things are a great opportunity, and there's scholarships out there. I just wanted to make sure you knew for absolutely everything. So if you thought my grades aren't the greatest and I'm not a sports professional, that I don't qualify for a scholarship, that's not true. The answer is yes, you do. So let's talk about some resources out there to find all of these scholarships, because we all hear about the millions of dollars available to help you achieve your goals, right? But where do I find them? So my first piece of advice to you would be to talk to your guidance counselors. The guidance counselors in North and South Carolina do a fantastic job of gathering local scholarships. And local scholarships have fewer students who apply, and you are much more likely to acquire or win those scholarships. So be sure you're in your guidance office regularly and asking. Again, financial aid offices or your school, because that's going to be your #1 source of funding. So you want to talk to everybody on the college campus that you see about how you can fund your goals here. So foundations and organizations, again, know who you are and be talking to those folks closest to you. You may not realize that one of your parents attends a Rotary meeting every Wednesday morning, and Rotary provides a large number of scholarships. And so you want to talk to everybody that you know. Churches are another source, a huge source of scholarship dollars on the local area and also internationally. So check that out as well. Businesses, where do you work? Do you work for McDonald's or Wendy's or any of Walmart? Some of these big organizations that are great opportunities for scholarships, and they do support their employees first. So, but if you're not employed at any of them, please be checking out their websites as well. So there's another source that I always think is probably a really good one, and that is be sure you're replying correctly to that question that is going to, by the end of this year, drive you insane. Every day, someone is going to ask you what you intend to do after high school, at least one. There'll probably be more. And how you reply to that could impact your ability to attend the school that you choose. And that is to simply say, I would like to go to this college and study this. Do you know of any scholarships that would help me achieve this goal? Because so many people are involved in organizations and have opportunities to share that information with you, but they just may not think about it. So if you respond to those questions correctly, you may find many opportunities to apply for scholarships. And again, the national scholarships are wonderful, but think about how many people are applying to those big national scholarships. So the more local you can get, or state you can get, if you can get down to your local community or into just your state, you're going to have a much better opportunity of actually winning one of those scholarships. So some of the websites and resources that I use, my fave is fastweb.com. And the reason for that is simply because I'm signed up on FastWeb. They send me an email reminder every day. I have had email reminders that told me I had $1,000 worth of scholarships that day, but I've also had days where it was $30,000 worth of scholarships that I had qualified for. So, and you do fill out one form, and it searches constantly for scholarships that match you specifically. So every scholarship they notify you of, they've already checked to see that you qualify. So it's a great opportunity. Collegeboard.org. Anybody know what that is? That's where you register to take the SAT, right? It's also a great resource for many other things, but in there, you may not know, they have one of the largest databases there is. There's over 3,000 databases, and each one of those has about 3,000 scholarships within it. So you do the math, but it's huge. So check that out. CFNC.org in North Carolina and yourfoundation.org in South Carolina. Again, state specific. So if you are a student in either one of those states, this is an opportunity for you to apply to scholarships that are specifically for that state. So a limited number of applications and much more likely to acquire those scholarships. So check those out. They're also, both those websites are a great resource for you. So as seniors, you should be checking them out. Niche.com, scholarship.com, raiseme.com. Those are all great opportunities for you to help you finance your college education. And again, this is the #1 way that you can impact your college cost. So if you are willing to get out there and do the work and make the applications to these, and many of them don't even require an essay. There's one called the No Essay Required Scholarship. It's $2,000. It's given away every month. So check those out. They're called lottery-based scholarships, but not all of them even require a scholarship. So if you're willing to put in the time and make the effort, you will reap the reward and probably be able to afford the college of your choice, because there really is literally millions of dollars out there to support your goals. You just have to get out there and do the work. And so now I'm going to hand it over, I believe, to Annalee and let her take on the financial aid end of it. You're muted, Annalee.
Sorry. So a private education is affordable. A public education is affordable, but there is one common thread, and it's very expensive. Going to college, applying to college is expensive, and us as admissions counselors are here to help you in any way that we can. So 90% of students attending an NCICU school receive some type of financial assistance. So it's out there. We just heard all about where to find these scholarships and how to bridge the gap of affordability. Use this knowledge. I tell my students all the time, treat outside scholarships like a part-time job. 20 hours a week, or maybe a Friday or Saturday every other week, just searching for those scholarships and applying and keeping up with the due dates and the dates where you'll hear back. It takes a lot of time, but you will reap that reward. On average, the amount of scholarships and grants awarded by the NCICU institutions exceeds total federal funds students receive. So private education is affordable, and we want to help bridge that gap of affordability. 83% of students awarded institutional grants nationally. That's a huge percentage of students. $21,300 is the average institutional aid awarded nationally. If you take that minus your total cost of enrollment, you're getting right on par with a private or a public education. So types of aid, of course, grants, scholarships, loans, work study, FAFSA, special circumstances form. If for some reason your family is going through a lot of turmoil, or you just lost your house due to a hurricane, or there was divorce in the family or a death in the family, we're here to make sure that we're listening to all sides of your story. So please, please, please contact your financial aid office and ask about special circumstances form. How can you give more information to this FAFSA form? FAFSA, they don't get to know you like admissions counselors do. It's just a form that you fill out based off of your taxes and your parents' taxes. And so there is a lot of emotion that comes with financial aid, and that's what we are here for. Don't feel embarrassed to have these conversations with us. I was a first-generation student. I had no idea what I was doing, and it took me sitting in the financial aid office for about an hour going over with my financial aid counselor What does everything mean? How can I make this affordable? And you know what? It was because of that guy that I stayed in college, because I probably wouldn't have if it wasn't for him explaining everything to me, because I was so overwhelmed. So definitely utilize the resources at the colleges. Some type of terminology that you are going to be hearing about a lot this year, your FSAID, that's a unique username and password so you and your parents can log into federal student aid sites. Please, please, please keep it on your phone. Have a notebook next to your computer. Write down all of your usernames, all of your passwords, all of your PINs. There are going to be a lot of different ones, especially if you're applying to multiple different scholarships. Keep an agenda, keep up with due dates and deadlines. This is the year to really vamp up your organization skills. Another term that you're going to hear often is prior. And it used to be that the FAFSA file date was January 1, but in 2016, the filing date was moved up. And so now you can submit as early as October 1st. So this was introduced to make clear that students filling out FAFSA will report tax information from a prior year, so 2 years, allowing tax information. So your parents or your guardian most likely are going to have to get these documents for you. I think this was the only time of the year me and my mom got in an argument because she could never find hers or she forgot her PIN. So definitely stay organized. Number 3 is COA, or cost of attendance, total cost of enrollment. This tuition is only a chunk of what school actually costs. After your tuition, you have your boarding, you have your meal plan, you have your parking pass. I did not believe I even had to pay a student outdoor activity fee. And I was like, I don't even like the outdoors. Why am I paying this? So make sure you have these open conversations with your admissions counselors and your financial aid counselors. What is the total cost of attendance? Also, things like books and travel expenses. And if you're going to live off campus, what does the market look like for housing? Number 4 is going to be the number that you hear all the time, and that's the EFC. EFC is expected family contribution or estimated family contribution. This is a number that the federal government, gets off of your FAFSA and your financial aid forms, and it is the same number for every institution. Now, what each institution does with this number and how they award is up to their specific awarding policies, but every institution will have the same estimated family contribution. And this is what your family is expected or estimated to pay for your enrollment. Now, a lot of the times it's not going to be a realistic number. So this is why outside scholarships, merit-based scholarships, grants, aid is going to look like, or that's why it's going to be so important. Grants. So this is a type of student aid that does not need to be paid back yet. Grants are often need-based, while scholarships are typically merit-based. To apply for federal grants, students must file a FAFSA. So there's something called the North Carolina Need-Based Grant. That is something that if your family's estimated family contribution is within a certain range, you would be eligible for the North Carolina Need-Based Aid. At my institution, we do a match. So we match that dollar for dollar. These are things that you need to know about the institutions that you're applying to. Number 6 is work study. This part of your financial aid package is called self-help. With the federal work study program, you'll get a part-time or full-time job on or off campus and earn money that goes into your pocket to help pay for some of your school expenses. If you don't do a work study, a lot of institutions have student employment on their campus. Can you be a student ambassador? Can you work for a campus activities team? At my institution, we have a campus concierge, so you can work there and gain some customer service experience. These are all really great ways to help fund your education. A grace period is a chunk of time between you graduate and when you leave school and when you have to start repaying your loans. This typically looks like 6 months. You can defer, you can go into forbearance. There's different types of things. You don't have to worry about this yet. You have 4 years. Just focus on one thing at a time. Direct subsidized and unsubsidized loans, you will see on your financial aid packet. Subsidized loans are federal student loans for which interest does not start accruing until shortly after graduation. Unsubsidized loans start accruing interest the day you take out the loan. So make sure if you're taking loans out to help fund your education that you always accept the subsidized loan first and then use the unsubsidized loan second. Direct Parent Plus, these are federal loans that your parents or guardians may be able to take out to cover the cost of your college. Though the money goes towards your education, the loan is in their name, which means it's their responsibility to repay. So make sure that you are talking with your parents or guardians about all of this information. And then another thing that institutions do is sometimes at the end of the year, they might, and might is a very strong word, do an appeals process. This is when you get your financial aid and you say, hey, Annalee, I really want to be at High Point, but right now it's just not affordable. Is there something that you can do, or is there any other aid at the institution that I don't know about yet? That's a conversation that we can openly have. Your parents or your guardians can be on the phone with me, but institutions do have things like that. It just takes an open and honest conversation. Make sure to put all of your questions in the chat box if you have them. I'm going to open it up to questions and answers. Here on this slide is all of our contact information and our institutions that we represent. Also on the very bottom of this slide is our CACRAO informational session. So if you want to learn more about High Point or St. Andrews or William Peace University, go to sign up and register for those informational sessions. It's a really great way to find out more about our institution. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat box, but I'm going to open it back up to my co-panelists to answer these questions.
We have a student who wants to know if they can do work study as a freshman. And I know at St. Andrews, that's absolutely possible.
Same at my institution as well.
There are times a charm, yeah, same here. And actually too, we got a question as well as how early is too early to start applying for scholarships? And as early as it's never too early as long as you're motivated. They're really, there's many reasons for doing it early. At the very least, I would say as a junior, you definitely want to at least start looking at different options, seeing what's out there. But there are many that have deadlines, sometimes even before your senior year, or some that even are meant specifically for demographics that are not quite even seniors yet. Or even with Raise Me, which I believe Denise talked about a little bit earlier too in her section, is something where you can actually earn like micro scholarships for honors class you take as a sophomore, as a junior, doing different community service hours and other elements there that keep adding up. So it's never too early.
If you look on collegeboard.org, when you're filling out the inquiry form, it's going to ask you what grade that you are in, and it starts before your freshman year. So that just goes to show you there are scholarships out there for students on every year. So also keep in mind that a lot of them follow the financial market. So if the donor is looking for a tax deduction, they will want to issue that. If you're a senior, they're going to want to issue it by the end of the year, select their winner. So earlier is better if you've waited till your senior year.
Also for internships, there are a lot of internships that are paid. Your time and your work is valuable, especially in this market. Employers love interns because they're full of energy and they have a lot of really great innovative ideas. Your work is valuable, so don't sell yourself short. Get an internship that's paid. If you're not in the position where you can have a paid internship, that's okay. You're still gaining some really awesome experiential experience.
There's also a question here, are loans for 1 year at a time? And if yes, do you have to reapply each year?
You do have to apply for FAFSA every single year. That's why it's so important to keep your usernames and your passwords in a safe location. Also, if you have more than one student in college at a time, parents, if you have twins or if you have a freshman and a senior, it's one FAFSA per student. So you'll have to fill out that FAFSA form multiple times for each student each year.
Even if you have twins.
Yes.
And I grew up with two very close friends of twins, so I can
You share everything except for FAFSA.
with that. And actually, one other quick thing I wanted to chime in on as well too is that we actually I know regarding that as well, and just generally with different scholarships, financial aid, and especially with doing it each year, there also might be a different scholarship or grant available that wasn't available the year before, or one that you qualify for now that you didn't before too. So always look to see what the most recent or newest things are, and reach out to your financial aid or admissions office at your university, you know, as you are a student with that each year, to see what's available. So like anything else, you don't know unless you ask.
And on the opposite side of that, if you get a scholarship and it's not renewable for the 4 years, keep in mind that you're going to have to replace that money for the following year. So if you get a freshman only scholarship, that is going to disappear in your sophomore year, and you will need to apply for other scholarships to replace that to keep your costs at a level.
Also, keep in mind, if you're getting merit institutional aid, a lot of the times you have to maintain a certain GPA to keep that scholarship. So the hard work doesn't stop just because you got the merit-based scholarship your freshman year. You still have to maintain a certain GPA to keep that scholarship. But that's, again, a conversation that you can have with your admissions or financial aid officer. Do we have any other questions, guys?
It looks like there was one earlier, I believe that talked about a particular student who was asking about, well, what if they have an ACT or SAT score that's very high, but their GPA is not as high as they would like. And this is actually an answer that applies to that. And the opposite scenario too, is that when you go to websites like the ones that Denise was talking about, like scholarships.com, there's different opportunities and scholarships that really apply for everything. Of course, there's going to be some that may demand a high GPA and a high standardized test score, but there's also going to be a lot more now too that are going to be tailored towards those maybe that don't are planning on taking a test. It's maybe more on GPA or other items, because a lot more of these scholarships, just like universities, are having more of a holistic process in terms of looking at the individual as a whole, not just like by a couple numbers. So don't let either one of those items discourage you. There's always different ways to go ahead and showcase your strengths and opportunities for grants and scholarships that can potentially match.
And if you're not a great test taker, that's okay. This is your year to thrive and to shine, because there are so many institutions that are going test optional or test blind. And I am envious of y'all because I hated standardized test taking. So stay focused in school, get good grades, and don't stress out about the SAT or ACT. If you haven't been able to take it, that's okay.
And if you've done well on the test and you're applying to colleges, keep in mind that private institutions take a much more holistic approach to our students. We look at you as a whole person. We're not just using numbers to make a decision, many of us. So if you have that situation where the GPA is a little lower, the test scores are a little higher, that might lead you to look at some of the private institutions, because we look at you as a whole person when we're making our decisions on acceptance.
Do we have any other questions? If not, we can call on our CACRAO presenter. Hello.
All right. So if you guys don't have any other questions, I'm going to take over the screen.
Oh, we did have one more question pop up there.
Yes. Okay. Let's do it.
Do scholarships have to know what institution you're going to? I would say not most of them, not necessarily. Some of them may ask you where you plan to go, and they are going to verify that you go, that you have been accepted and are about to enroll. But they don't always know that, or don't always care where you're going. Some of them will have things like you must be attending a 4-year accredited not-for-profit institution, but each scholarship is going to decide individually what their qualifications are. So you'll need to just check that out as you're going through the scholarships.
And I think, yeah, just a quick note that it depends if it's an internal or external scholarship too. So especially if it's not tied to a university, as Denise said, most likely it'll just be like a certain criteria in terms of you being enrolled in school by a certain time, a certain date, and a certain type of university, like for example, a nonprofit 4-year with that. But a lot of times, it's based on a lot of other items that aren't necessarily related to that specific school, especially if it's something that's going to be earlier in the cycle as well, before you would even commit to an institution.
See, can everyone see my screen there? Okay, great. So it should say thank you for joining us. So thank you for joining us. When you close this window, there will be a link to a very quick 4-question survey. We'd appreciate any feedback you can provide. Also, this was just one of many sessions being hosted, so be sure to sign up for additional sessions at CACRAO.org, CACRAO.org. In about a week, you'll be able to find this session's recording as well as all of the other sessions at CACRAO.org, CACRAO.org. Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Have a wonderful night.
Bye, everyone. Take care.